Hey guys, so today we're going to be creating a simple tic-tac-toe game in the browser using just HTML, vanilla JavaScript and some CSS. So let's get started. We're going to create three files, one called index.html, one called style.css and one called script.js. And now inside the HTML file we're going to create some boilerplate HTML, and we're going to link our style sheet and import our JavaScript file. So to do that, we're going to create a link tag with a href of style.css, and we're also at the very bottom of the body tags we're going to create a script tag with a source of script.js. And now we can get started with our actual HTML. So before we start with the functionality of the tic-tac-toe game, we're going to just create our board and get everything set up. So first of all, we're going to create a div with a class of container. And inside this div, we're going to have a h1 tag. And inside this h1, we're just going to say tic-tac-toe. If we refresh, we can now see this heading. By the way, I've just opened this HTML file in the browser so we can see what we're doing. So we're going to start as we mean to go on, and we're going to give this some style. So we have a container class and a h1. So first of all, we're going to select our container, and we're going to give this container a width of 320 pixels. We're also going to give it a height of 320 pixels. We're going to say margin auto, and we're going to give a margin top of something like 100 pixels, just so our heading isn't at the very top. And we're also going to select our h1, and we're going to text align to the center, and we're also going to increase the font size to 50 pixels. So if we save that and refresh, you can see this looks a bit better already. So we have our h1 with tic-tac-toe. Now we're going to try to create our board beneath this. So to create our board, we're going to create three rows, which are going to be divs, and inside each of these three rows, we're going to have three columns. And we're going to have borders on some of these divs and columns, so we can create and see the board. So how do we do that? So we're going to create a div with a class of row, and this is going to be our row. And the top row is going to have a border at the bottom. So we're going to give it a class of border B. And inside the style, we can select this class, and we can say border bottom. We're going to give it 10 pixels, solid, and black. And we also created this class called row. So we need to select that, and the row is going to have a height of 100 pixels. So each row is going to be 100 pixels tall. Cool. So let's refresh the browser, and we can see now we have this line, which is the first row of our tic-tac-toe game. So now that we have the first row, let's make the columns inside this. So we're going to have three columns, as we said. So let's create a div with a class of column. And similar to the way we did border bottom here, but we're going to have a border right. And we're going to copy this, paste it, and if we refresh, first of all we need to make the style. So first of all, the column is going to again have a height of 100 pixels. It's going to have a width of 100 pixels. We're going to float it to the left, and we're going to increase the font size so that whenever we do start putting characters inside these columns, they're going to fill it. So we're going to say a font size of 100 pixels. We're going to text align to the center, and we're going to give it a line height of 100, so our text will also be vertically aligned. And now we can copy the border B and create border R for border right, and it's going to be a border right. So if we save that and refresh, something's wrong here. So this shouldn't be widows, it should be width. So if we save, refresh, we can see we now have this, and it's looking a bit funny because I've only created one row, so I'm not sure why this border's here. I guess the last column shouldn't have a border. So if we delete that and refresh, we can see this is a bit better. So now we should be able to copy this row and paste it, and that will give us another row. And we're going to do this once more. And save and refresh. And you can see our Tic Tac Toe board is taking shape. One thing we need to do is get rid of the border bottom on this last row. So we can get rid of that here. Save, hit refresh. We can see we now have a really nice Tic Tac Toe board. So there's some things we can do to make this a bit better. I guess whenever we're hovering over one of these columns, we could highlight it to let the user know where they're actually selecting. So that's really easy to do. We can just select col again, but on hover. What do we want to do? We're going to give it a background color. And we'll just say something like light grey. And if we save, we can see now whenever we hover over one of these columns, it has a background color of grey. So that's really nice. I think that's our board finished. So we're ready to start with the actual functionality. So whenever we click, we should be adding in an X or an O. So just trying to think here. Let's get started with our JavaScript. So we're going to try to do this in quite an object-orientated way. So we're going to be creating classes. These classes are going to have their own functions. So I guess the first thing we could do is make a function called Tic Tac Toe Game. And we're going to be initializing this at the start. So we're creating a new Tic Tac Toe Game, and then we're going to have a function called, this should be a lowercase t, dot start, and this will start our game. So now this needs to have a class function. So I'm going to say this dot start equals function, and this is going to be called to start our Tic Tac Toe game. Before we jump ahead with that, let's think what else we're going to need. So we have this game, but what else might we need? So I guess we're going to need a board. We're going to need a human player. And we're going to need a computer player. So now we need to create these three constructor functions. So board, human player, and computer player. And I think that's all we need for now. So we also need to keep track of the turn in the game. So to begin with, we're just going to say turn is 1. Or turn is 0, I guess, because nobody's taken a turn yet. Next, I think it makes sense to work on the board, because this is what we're going to need to start our game. So for the board, we're going to have positions. And these positions is going to be each of our columns in our HTML. So we can select those columns and turn them into an array. So to do that, we're going to say array.from, and we're going to have a query selector, all, and we're going to select all of the divs that have a class of col. And let's just console.log this.positions. and see if it is selecting them correctly. We should have 9, I guess, because there's 9 different positions. So hitting refresh, nothing's happening. I seem to have misspelt the script tag, and you guys probably noticed that already. So let's just add in the T and refresh, and now we can see it's printing out our 9 positions. So that's really nice. We can keep track of those. So next inside this script, so we have the positions, and these are going to be super important. So let's use them now inside our start function. So when the game starts, we want to make sure that we are watching all of these different positions for changes, because when a change happens, this is going to trigger when it's the next person's turn. So to do that, we're going to use the mutation observer, which means that we can observe whether things are changing in the DOM. So to do that, we're going to create a config first. So what are we listening for changing? We're going to listen for child list. So whenever the child of a div changes, we're going to notice that in our observer. So next, let's create our observer. That's a new mutation observer. And whenever something changes, so whenever we notice a change, we want to call take turn, which is going to be a function. So let's create that function. Cool. So we have this observer, and whenever something changes, we need to take a turn. So now we need to set this observer on different DOM elements. And the DOM elements we're going to set it on is each of our positions on the board. So this is all starting to take shape already. So we can say board.positions.forEach. So for each position, we want to observe. So we're going to say observer.observe an element, and we're passing the config. So this is basically saying that we want to observe this element based on this config. So this is saying whenever something changes, we want to call this take turn. So for now, let's just say console.log something changed. And we can actually test that now, because inside here, if we change like the inner text of this, we say X, and we go out, then we can see in the console we logged something changed. This also shows us that our board looks good and our X is the correct size and everything. Nice. So we know that observer's working, and that's going to be really important. And also at the start, we just want to call it take turn, because the first person needs to take their turn. So what's going to happen inside take turn? Well, I guess the last thing that's going to happen is we have to increment turn. So we're going to say turn plus plus. And why is this turn integer important? This is going to decide which player's turn it is. So we can say if turn modulus 2 equals 0, then we want the human player to take their turn. And else, so if it's not an even number, then we want the computer player to take their turn. So we now know that this human player and computer player need a take turn function. So we can say this dot take turn equals function. And for the human player, we're just going to, for now, say console.log human player turn. And we copy this, we just paste it in and change it to computer player turn. So if we save this and refresh in the browser, now we can see at the start it's the human player's turn. So now when it's our turn, we need to handle what happens when we click one of these boxes. We want an X to be placed inside the box, and we want it to become the computer player's turn. So inside the human player take turn function, what do we need to do? Well, the human player needs to know about the board. So we should probably be passing the board inside the constructor. And we should be doing the same for the computer player as well. So let's do that. So whenever we're constructing the human player and the computer player, let's pass in the board, just so they know about it. Because both of these players are going to need to know about the board so they can select which column they want. So now for the human player, take turn, how are we going to do this? We're going to have to add an event listener to each of the columns so that they can listen for changes or clicks. And whenever we click on one of those columns, we need to add an X into the column, and then we need to remove the listeners so that we can't take another turn while it's the computer player's turn. So first of all, we said we need to add the listeners. So we're going to say board, because we received the board in the constructor. So we can say board.positions, because board should have positions. Yeah. Let's delete that console log. So board.positions dot for each. So for each position, we're going to add an event listener. And we're listening for clicks. And on click, what should we do? We should say handle turn taken. So whenever one of these positions is clicked, we're going to call this handle turn taken function. So let's create that. Function handle turn taken. And I guess this is going to have an event. So first of all, let's just console.log turn taken and see if this event is getting fired. So whenever we click on one of these columns, you can see turn taken is printed. I guess we need to know which column is clicked, and we can get that from the event. So we can actually say event.target.inner text. So we want to give an inner text of X. So if we refresh now and we click, we can see these are turning into X's as we click. So that's exactly what we want. Really nice. But now that our turn is taken, we want to remove this event listener because we don't want to be able to keep clicking when it's not our turn. So we can say board.positions.forEach, same as before, except we can remove these brackets, except we're going to be removing the event listener. So we're removing the click event listener, and we're removing the handle turn taken. So now if we refresh, we can click once, and whenever we click anywhere else, it isn't adding an X because it's not our turn anymore. So that's really nice. Perfect. We're getting there already. I guess now we need to check whether it's going inside the computer player's turn. Cool. So whenever we click once, we can see it's the computer turn. So now we need to handle the computer player's turn. And my plan is after this video to build some sort of a smart player so that the computer can actually win and is really smart. But for now, I'm going to make it pretty much a dummy. So it's just going to pick a random available position and it's going to take its turn there. So to do that, we have to get the available positions. So we're going to say const available positions. And this is going to equal board.positions. Because again, we're passing in board to the constructor. And we want to filter each of these positions based on if they have inner text or not, or if their inner text is empty. So just to explain this, we're creating a variable available positions, which will be an array, and this is going to equal all of the board's positions which have an inner text of just an empty string. So if we do console.log available positions, after we take our turn, there should only be 8 available positions. And yeah, that's what we're getting, because this space is already occupied. So we have our available positions. So what can we do now? We need to pick our move as the computer. So we can say const move equals, well, we're going to need to floor the random number. So math.floor, and we're going to get a random number. And we're going to multiply that by the available positions dot length. And this is going to get us a random integer between 0 and the random position length. So then available positions with the index of move, the inner text is going to equal to uppercase O. So now if we refresh and hit anywhere, so something isn't right here. Length, spelling mistake. So if we try again, we can see I clicked X here in the middle, and the computer randomly picked O here. So I clicked X here, and as you can see, the computer isn't very smart. It just clicked O here. Now I click X here, and the game is just going to carry on even though it shouldn't. And now you can see it's still trying to carry on even though the board is full. So now we need to figure out when the game is actually finished. So where does it make sense to put this logic? Well, I guess the board knows a lot about itself, so it should know when the game is finished or when someone has won. So I think we need to give it a function called check for winner. Which is a function. And when are we actually going to be checking for the winner? I guess at the very start of take turn. If the turn has changed, then we need to check for a winner. So we can say if board.check for winner. So if there has been a winner, then we just want to return. We don't want any player, human or computer, to take a turn if someone has already won. So now this check for winner function. So to do this, we have all the positions. We need to basically figure out all the combinations of winning positions, and then check if our board fulfills any of these. So if we look at our board, an empty board, we can see there are 9 positions, and whenever we select the positions, this is turned into an array, and this is going to be index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So to represent this here, this could help us. We're going to say position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So a winning combination here would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, 4, 8, 2, 4, 6, 0, 3, 6, 1, 4, 7, and 2, 5, 8. So they're all of our winning combinations. So let's store that. And I guess this should be inside the check for winner function, because this is the only place we're going to be using it. So let's store it as an array of arrays. So we said our winning position was 0, 1, 2. Okay, so I think that's all of the winning positions. We can delete this now and store that. So we have these positions now. So first of all, in check for winner, we need to store whether we have found a winner yet or not. So we're going to say let winner equals false. At the very start of the function, we won't have found a winner. And now let's just extract positions. Because we're probably going to be using this a lot. So we have the board and we have the winning combinations. So let's cycle through the winning combinations and see if our board fulfills any of these. So winning combinations dot for each. We just call it winning combo. So let's store each of the positions of the winning combo. So first of all, we'll just say position 0 inner text equals positions winning combo 0 dot inner text. So what we're doing here is cycling through the winning combinations, and we are getting the inner text of the position here. So we're checking what is the inner text of that. So we want to do that for all 3 positions in each winning combination. So let's copy this and say position 1 inner text, position 2 inner text. And we also need to get winning combo 1, winning combo 2. So now we can check if it's a winning combination. And to do that, we're going to say const is winning combo. So we want to check the position 0 inner text isn't just an empty string. And if it isn't, we can carry on with our evaluation. We can check that position 0 inner text equals position 1 inner text, and position 1 inner text equals position 2 inner text. Let's bring it on to a new line. So it's a winning combo if the position here isn't empty and these 2 are equal and these 2 are equal. Then it's a winning combination. So we're cycling through all these winning combinations and checking our board if there has been a winning combination. So now if it is a winning combination, we want to set winner equals true. That's our variable here. And we also should add a style to each of these positions if it is a winning combo. So we're going to say winning combo dot for each, and index is what we're checking, and position at that index. We're going to give it a class name. We're going to append a class name. I'm just going to append winner. And now insert our style.css. Let's select the winner class and let's give it a color of blue. So this means that the winning combination, the color of the text will be blue. Cool, so I think we're pretty close to getting there. At the end of this function, we also need to return whether it was a winner or not. So return winner. Because then inside our game, we're evaluating if there has been a winner, then don't let anyone take their turn. So I guess we're up to 93 lines now. That's pretty good. As far as I know, this might be all that we need for our version 1. So when I click here, it's marking it with an X, the computer's marking with an O. I can click here, it's marked with an X, and I can click again, and you can see now I've hit a winning position, so our X's are turning blue, and the computer didn't take another turn. But as you can see, the computer is pretty silly, it's not very clever, so it isn't blocking me, or it doesn't know anything about winning. It would have to be incredibly lucky for the computer to win. Even if I try to lose, we'll probably always either draw or I'll end up winning by accident. So this has been part 1 in creating a Tic Tac Toe game. Hopefully in part 2, if you'd like to see it, I'm going to try to build a better computer player that will actually be unbeatable, or we'll always draw. So this has been creating a Tic Tac Toe game using HTML, JavaScript and just some CSS. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.